Is everyone having a good time today? Morning?
Yeah,
Evening?
I woke up this morning. My grandma made coffee. I'm at my grandparents' house, and I'm chilling. It was a good cup of coffee. Except I kind of woke up like feeling like I needed more sleep. So, but I shouldn't be saying that to you, Amy.
Yes.
Oh, Amy's here.
Yes, I
Hi.
am.
You're in the dark.
I am in the dark. I'm also with my family right now.
My idea to become a Navy SEAL was me on my couch at 297 pounds with a box of mini donuts and a chocolate milkshake. It wasn't like it was like some eureka moment. Over a period of time of just living in my own head, I got sick of being haunted by being nobody. I was in the Air Force for about 4 years, and my big thing was I wanted to be Air Force pararescueman, some of the best medics on the planet Earth. As I got in the program, I started realizing that they had this thing called water confidence. Basically, they make you very uncomfortable underwater. So I realized at that point in time that I hated being underwater. I hated holding my breath. For 6 weeks, I hung in the program. I didn't sleep at all for fear of going back to the pool, for fear of drowning in my head. About 6 weeks in, we have this physical, and they realize I have sickle cell trait. Back in the day, I used to lie about whatever made me feel insecure. On my official paperwork out of pararescue training, it has David Goggins left on a medical. But the truth of the matter is, I left because I quit. I had to find a different job in the Air Force. In 4 years being in the Air Force, I gained 125 pounds. I get out of the Air Force and I'm working for a job spraying for cockroaches. 40 restaurants I was in charge of. I go in there at nighttime and I spray. I would stop at Steak and Shake, get a large chocolate milkshake. I would go across the street to 7-Eleven, get a box of mini donuts. On the way home, I'd be popping donuts like Tic Tacs. I would get home, turn the TV on. This is my routine. Start taking a shower and listen to the TV as I'm showering. This particular day, I started hearing Navy SEALs, toughest training. And I was hearing it cut out between the water hitting my ears. So I came out of the shower. At the end of the show, this commanding officer gives a speech. He says, "We live in a society where mediocrity is often rewarded. These 22 men detest mediocrity." I invented this thing called the accountability mirror when I was growing up. And I got a chance to go into that mirror and look at myself and call myself out. I'm afraid of this, I'm afraid of that. Being raw and real about who I am and about what I'm hiding from. And so to overcome all this, my bright idea was to try to become the one thing I was afraid of, a Navy SEAL. That day, I started calling recruiters up. And for 2 weeks, this happened. This recruiter laughed at me, that recruiter laughed at me, this recruiter said, "There's no way." And every time I heard a no, I said, "No, it's not meant to be." So I get back in my car and start driving back to work. And after I'd be at work for a few hours, man, I said, "Man, you can't give up that easy." So finally I said, "This is my last call I'm gonna make." He was real busy. He said, "Just come on in." People don't walk in the office trying to be a Navy SEAL weighing 297 pounds. You walk in looking the way I look now. So he brought me back to a scale, and I remember looking in front of me was a height weight chart. For me, I'm 6'1". I could only weigh 191. I had to lose 106 pounds in less than 3 months. So I went on this crazy routine and eating hardly nothing. And in less than 3 months, I lost 106 pounds. I'm the only person in Navy SEAL history to be in 3 Hell Weeks in 1 year. Hell Week is 130 hours of continuous training. I got into Hell Week, got double pneumonia, stress fractures, got rolled back to day 1, week 1. I broke my kneecap. So I reported back to day 1 of Navy SEAL training broken. And we had a guy die in my 3rd Hell Week. So Hell Week ended about 30 hours early. I have severe stress fractures. My knee is now blown up again. I knew I wasn't gonna get a chance to go back through Hell Week again. I made a decision to myself, there's no more quitting. So that's when I went and got duct tape. For the first 45 minutes, the duct tape hurt like hell. But after 45 minutes, my legs would go numb. Once stuff goes numb, you can't feel it. So that's how I went through the rest of 22 more weeks of Navy SEAL training. I was already at rock bottom my whole life. So when you know how rock bottom feels, you don't mind sleeping in the sewer. So at that point, once I realized that I already experienced the bottom, I no longer had fear of failure. But this took a long time. It's one like I woke up and, oh, eureka, I got it. And I started realizing that the mind is the most powerful weapon that we have. Once I was able to quiet my mind and realize that I was really not cursed, but blessed to have so many tools that I never saw as tools. While growing up, so much hardship. Only thing that can happen to me now is this victory.
Welcome again, another Saturday morning / evening Bilingual Boogie. Today I want to talk about something that has been really inspiring me lately. Training. David Goggins. I spoke with Phil about him. The most intense man I've ever seen in my life. He is a Navy SEAL. He's an Army Ranger. Whatever the Air Force equivalent. So he's done all this hard training. But it's cool because he didn't start out that way at all. Actually, at one point, he was over 300 pounds, which is too much. So we'll read about him today.
Okay, David Goggins, 44, is the only member of the U.S. Armed Forces ever to complete training as a Navy SEAL, Army Ranger, and the Air Force Tactical Air Controller. He's also a former Guinness World Record holder for completing 4,030 pull-ups in 17 hours, and one of the world's top endurance athletes, having competed in more than 60 ultra-marathons, triathlons, and ultra-triathlons. Recently, the retired SEAL became the New York Times best-selling author of The Can't Hurt Me.
Okay. Before any of these achievements, Goggins was making $1,000 a month, working as an exterminator and living paycheck to paycheck. He was also out of shape, weighing nearly 300 pounds. On my way home, I would always get a large chocolate milkshake. Goggins tells CNBC. As soon as he got home, he turned on the TV and blast the volume so he could hear it when he showered. That was his routine up until one morning when he heard a program about Navy SEAL training. He recalls, "Here I am listening to the TV as I'm showering, and on this particular day, I started hearing Navy SEALs, toughest training. I was hearing it cut out between the water hitting my ears."
He got out of the shower, watched the remainder of the episode, and that when he said, "I got sick of being haunted by being nobody." He realized that he didn't want to sit back and continue watch these shows about great people doing amazing things. I wanted that feeling in my head that I believe that they had of true accomplishment.
His story is pretty inspiring. He was 300 pounds and he lost, in order to join the training to the military, he had to lose 100 pounds in 3 months. And he actually did it. And he said he was biking everywhere. He said he would take his bike and just drive everywhere. And so it's pretty crazy. It makes me pretty inspired to read it. And so before the questions, maybe like a little icebreaker type of thing, what's something that you guys have to do soon that is difficult? For me, I'm thinking about, if things go well and I'm able to actually come out to Taiwan, I have to move very quickly in the next 2 weeks. I have to get my visa. I have to get a flight, and then I have to check quarantine hotels and stuff like that. But it's just something that I know that I'm like, if it does come, I'm going to be like, I have to really actually put work in. So what's something difficult that you guys have to do soon? Something that you maybe aren't looking forward to doing the work for.
Okay. It's not something I'm not looking forward to, but I think I'm going to start taking up on Zumba classes. Yeah. Only because I just took a class with my mom, who is 81 years old. And she's been taking Zumba classes for 3 years. She's diabetic and it's good for her. And
Wow.
she asked for John to record her doing Zumba. And so I went and did it with her. And I think it's fun. And I think it'll be my excuse to spend more time with my mom. So I think I'm going to start taking maybe like twice a week. So I'm just afraid for my knees. That's, yeah.
What jobs did David Goggins have where he was making $1,000 a month? So are cockroaches common there?
Yes.
Yeah,
They're big here.
They can fly.
They can fly.
They can fly.
Oh no.
That's the first
They can
test.
fly in America.
Coming to
They can
Taiwan.
fly everywhere.
The huge one, a dog one.
I've never seen a fly. Well, in the Northeast, we don't have many cockroaches, I think. I mean, in the cities we do. Yeah. So after finding out they can't fly, I'm sorry. I won't be coming anymore. So, second question, what does it mean to live paycheck to paycheck? But he probably doesn't earn much, for sure.
I was gonna say, like, yeah, like living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, I definitely have my parental support, but when I first moved to Seattle, I kind of had to start paying for like rent and groceries and gas and everything outside of that. And so I luckily got a job right away, but I literally had to like be really careful with my money because I literally was like, this is your paycheck. This is how you're gonna pay for like all your things for the month. And that was kind of the first time I was ever like financially a little bit scared. Like, oh my gosh. I mean, I definitely had the support from my parents if I needed it, but I was definitely very much like wanting to be independent and have my own way of living. And so I think I just kind of was like, nope, I gotta do it. So it was a scary time for me. And even now I know it's so quick to be like in that place. So saving is the way to go, but it's a little scary sometimes.
Yeah. What do you think it means? What do you think the phrase out of shape means? I feel like we all might know this one, but it's interesting when you think about what it, like the actual words. What does out of shape mean?
There's this movie, Guardians of the Galaxy. Do you guys remember the last one where Thor had gained like all this weight?
Oh, yeah.
And then the little squirrel guy or whatever, I don't know his name, somebody help, but Thor is like, he's like, yeah, you look like melted ice cream. And I'm like, I can totally relate to that because, you know, I did some cardio today because that's kind of what I look like too. But I also think, in the story, like, if you think of each sentence, it kind of builds up to like a lifestyle. That part of it is by choice, you know, lacking motivation. But you kind of learn later that he also has the desire to improve, like this desire to do something significant, or at least feel as though he's doing something meaningful and significant. So I think in this case, it kind of just adds on to our understanding of like his lifestyle, like paycheck to paycheck, not eating well, be perhaps alone. I don't think he was married or anything at this point. You know, not a job that's super, I don't think people kind of grow up wanting to be exterminators with cockroaches, etc. You know, like,
right.
I think kind of in this case, out of shape is just kind of like an added detriment. Like, oh man, this is really bad. Like, and 300 pounds is no joke. I mean, that's definitely a reason not to have a milkshake. You know.
Yeah, and I like what you said. It's like you said it's like a mentality almost.
Yeah, I kind of want to speak on that a little bit because I feel like it implies that there's a shape that someone should be, which is like obviously the reason why at least American society is like terrible. Yeah, it implies that there's a shape that someone should be, and if you're not in that, then you're out of it, which is viewed as negative. And so this phrase, I feel like, is, at least in 2020, it's probably a little bit more outdated and like not as acceptable per se, but the meaning still holds of like, oh, this is to imply that you don't look as you should, essentially. Which this implies that there's a way that you should look, which is kind of wrong.
This is something that you would definitely only say about yourself. Like, oh, I'm out of shape. You would never look at someone else and say, you're out of shape. Like, that would be significantly rude.
I think Uju brings up a really good point too, because in the States, at least, I don't know about other cultures, but in the States, self-esteem is something that's almost always attacked. You know, like even if one is out of shape, just, you know, I've struggled with weight all my life, and I still do, both for bad choices and just for, you know, like things like depression and everything. And it's something I've always had to kind of keep an eye on. I think when I define it personally is when I think of if I can do like physical activity for like a sustained period of time, you know, and if I lose my breath, or if my heart feels like it's beating really quickly, if, you know, I just start feeling like, or I taste different things in my mouth, you know. But I definitely like what Uju brought up about the idea of what someone should look like, because I know, and I've met several people who may look quote unquote out of shape but are super healthy. They play sports, they eat well, they're happy, or at least joyful and content, and, you know, nice people to be around. You know, I think in the context of the article, it's someone that perhaps can't really physically, you know, or just outside of work doesn't do very much. But I think, you know, being conscious of if you're making yourself or others feel guilty, it's not a very pleasant or a kind thing to do, because who doesn't have something in their life that they wish was different?
Yeah. I'm actually curious. Xinming and everyone from Taiwan.
I think if anything at all, if the person, you think that they lost some weight, that's about the only thing you say. Oh, did you lose some weight lately? But never the other way around. I think that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
just
pretty
to
similar.
sound nice. Yeah.
Yeah, and also it seems that in Taiwan, you guys, like, I know Anne and Jean, you guys hike a lot.
They do.
So it seems like the culture is very, very like toward being fit, at least what you guys do.
Isn't that a trend worldwide right now? I think even in the States too, like hiking and exercising. I don't know.
Yeah,
Taiwan's catching on.
Outdoors, because of COVID, everyone wants to like actually do something.
Oh yeah, but even before this,
Keep in shape.
Yeah, keeping in shape.
Yeah, it depends. A lot of people in the city I knew didn't really go out and do anything. Uju, I remember I lived in Philly with Uju, but it was like I would be like, "Hey, you want to hike?" And then the nearest place to hike is like 40 minutes away driving, and they're just like, "Nah, let's just go to a bar."
Wow.
It's so crazy because we literally will drive like 3 hours just for hikes here in Seattle. So like yesterday, my family and I, we drove 2.5 hours just to hike in the mountains. So it's just different in different places.
Yeah. The next question is, what did David Goggins get sick of? What exactly did he say he got sick of?
Being haunted by being nobody.
Yeah, he got sick of being haunted by being nobody. So then the next question is, what is this word haunted in this context? What do you think haunted means?
Cesar, you like what, horror movies?
Well, I enjoy watching horror movies, not alone, but with people who genuinely get scared. Fantastic, because they'll scream and they'll just make the movie like 10 times better. By myself, I don't really like them, but when I'm with someone like the sisters here, like really get scared and scream, and it's just fantastic. And once I walked from the kitchen into the living room of where we had like a get together, and I guess they were startled by just like, oh, I walked in and they started screaming. The movie was so scary for them. It was just, oh, I love that. I love that so much. But yeah, Dwight, yeah.
Cesar, do you know The Flash? The program The Flash?
Oh, like the superhero?
I have the perfect person for you. This particular lady, she gets scared by even the Flash.
Oh, please send me her Facebook. Let's go on.
She'll be like, I heard you get scared of the Flash. Let's be friends.
Like when I visited my students in the villages, like they were translating, my teachers, like co-teachers, colleagues were translating, and it involved a story of a ghost like that lived over here, that haunted the house. Disciples are super afraid of ghosts. They think there's ghosts in church. Like, it's just hilarious. So funny.
Yeah, so you guys said some synonyms before of like, anxious, nervous is so good. I feel like in this context, David Goggins is being haunted by like his own insecurities or his own feeling of inferiority, which is relatable, I think. I think when you think you can fail, you get haunted by certain things. You get haunted by, voices telling you, no, you're not good enough, you can't do this. So this is definitely a good word to use when you have that feeling of something that's there that is just kind of making you feel like unsettled or nervous. It's definitely a good word. Let's get on to the scripture and questions. So I picked out 2 scriptures on training because this guy is crazy. And I think the Bible talks about training and what it means to train. Oh, Hideki, I didn't even see you. How are you? What's going on?
Okay. Sorry for late.
Oh, no worries. You can read the first one if you want.
Okay. Have nothing to do with godless myths and old wives' tales. Rather, train yourself to be godly. For physical training is of some value, but godliness has value for all things, holding promise for both the present life and the life to come.
All scripture is God-breathed and is useful for teaching, rebuking, correcting, and training in righteousness.
Yeah, great. So you have these 2 scriptures. They're both from Timothy, which is a letter. This is a letter that was written out from Paul to his student Timothy. He's teaching him how to like be a leader. And he says in these 2 scriptures, train yourself to be godly. He says physical training is of some value, but godliness has value for all things, holding promise for this life and the next life. And then he says, all scripture is God-breathed and is useful for teaching, rebuking, correcting, and training in righteousness. So we're talking about training, and we're talking about getting ready for things. What's a time that you've trained for something? I think we have like some people who have done marathons in this. So what's the time that you've trained for something? Like have you ever worked to get something?
Yeah, I've as you mentioned it, the classic. I've trained for a marathon in 2005, the London Marathon, and I will never do it again. Bad idea. No, it was good. It was great. It was a great experience, but it's a long way, man. It's a long way. But yeah, it involves that consistent on and on focus and dedication.
Why did you do
finish?
it?
I finished, yeah.
Nice.
Just finished.
Why did you do it? Because everybody
That's a
else.
Great question, Shirley. I used to run a lot when I, like that kind of age. So, and just for the experience. It's a great experience, especially an event like the London Marathon or the New York Marathon, something like that. So, but yeah, it's too far. It's too far.
Do you still jog?
Yeah, from time to time. Yeah.
Has anyone else done a marathon? When you're in comp sci, when you're a computer science student and you're training to find a job, you have to do a bunch of these interview questions called LEET code. And it's like a bunch of riddles, a bunch of brain challenging riddles. And it's one of those things where you have to know the answer and you have to pray and hope that the interviewer is asking you the same question. Because if you're getting a new question, you probably won't get it right at all. Like they'll interview you for your problem solving process. And so when you're training to find a job, all day, all you're doing is programming these questions, and then you're getting them wrong, and you're like, and you try it again. And so it's like it's training that you have to do, because if you don't do it and you go into the interview, I've had some interviews where I've
literally, I haven't known what to do. Like sat there in silence. The interviewer's like, and so like that's a different type of training where you need it or else you won't be effective at all. And so that leads me to the second question. What helps you stay focused on training? Whatever you're training for, what do you do to stay focused?
Chocolate milkshakes.
Chocolate milkshakes? No vanilla?
Sure.
One thing, that's a really great question. One thing I've done in the past is work every day to not be disappointed in myself or feel guilty that I'm not like so excellent like other people might be. So one thing I do every day, or I would do every day, is accept where I am and just accept that every little bit contributes to an overall achievement or success. I think that's a valuable lesson that I learned on my own. And I used to run also, and I remember telling myself, I mean, I couldn't run half a mile, which is a kilometer essentially, just less than a kilometer, without having to stop. And then I progressively got better and better and better and better. And it felt really good, but I had to tell myself that no matter how fast or how slow I go, the finish line is still there. Like it doesn't move based on how fast or slow I'm going. So to help me, to encourage myself, I would say, just slow down. Just try to run far rather than just quickly. And that's something that I've done before.
Yeah, that's good. So it's like progress. Any type of progress is good.
Yeah, like a schedule, planner, like you shouldn't feel guilty for not, doing something at 7 how you plan. Just pre-plan. That's what the schedule is for. Like just plan it for another time. Just little things I would do because I tend to feel guilty if I don't achieve something. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I know for me, just like having a person with me to like keep me accountable, like make sure that I'm staying on task, and then just to like not feel like I'm doing it alone. So like I'm actually going to start training with a friend just to train. And so they're going to help me just like stay on top of things. And then I think about like Uju and I have been like practicing Chinese together. So like in a sense, we're like training to learn Chinese. And so I think things like that, having a partner is like super helpful and encouraging as well. Like I'm someone who's just kind of can be feel defeated really easily, like guilty as well. And I just think it's helpful to have a friend to like encourage you and support you and like stuff like that. So
yeah, someone else to be there to motivate you as well. I think that's really good. I know if my personal Chinese study is not great when I'm alone because I'll like do it one day and then I'll like forget a bunch.
I remember one of my best friend is like a crazy runner, and he also did cross country in college. So one thing I found motivating was like going to events where you're surrounded by people, even as a spectator, like you're surrounded by people who are super fit, and you realize that they weren't just born that way. They really had to train. And it's inspiring to see other people who have put in that work, just to see like, wow, I can do that too. I can do that too.
According to these two scriptures, that we read, it says in the first one, train yourselves to be godly. It says in the second one, all scripture is useful for training in righteousness. Maybe in your own lives, what does it mean to train in godliness? Or what do you think it's beneficial? What do you think about this?
What I like personally love about 1 Timothy 4 is how it talks about like holding promise for both the present life and the life to come. I think when you think about training for like marathons or a job or whatnot, like that just lasts here, but like the training that we do for God lasts forever. And so like I can think about, when you want to follow God and have a relationship with him and pass that on to your friends and to your family, like they can pass it on to others and it lasts forever. It's not something that just like stays with you and is for yourself. But I think it really means like when you train yourself to be godly, I think that means it's not easy. It's not something that you're just going to get right away. You can't expect yourself to be perfect at it. It's something that takes a lot of work. and it requires a lot of grace for yourself. So there's a lot of forgiveness and but effort. You can't just expect it to come from doing nothing. Like, you have to be really intentional about reading your Bible, praying, and like getting time with people and connecting with God. And I think some of the best training comes when you're going through really hard times, like COVID or the social and racial unrest that we're finding right now in the States. I think things that really challenge our faith and force us to like do something. You can't just sit back and relax. You have to really be engaged and kind of like you're in the fire. You either get burned or you get, I don't know, better. I don't know. So yeah, I think just like some of the best training comes when we're going through hard times, and you get to keep pushing on, or we won't be trained, we won't grow. So
yeah,
that's what I think about
godliness. Like what you said, it has promise for both the present life and the life to come. It's good for now and for later. Yeah. So what about anyone else? What do you think it means to train yourself to be godly, or what do you think godliness means?
What can I take from another person, or well, whatever they're saying? What is the goal, or what is the training that is intended to come from God, or what does God want me to learn from this person? Maybe that's not exactly what you were thinking.
No, it is. It's good. I think because you're looking at other people and you're seeing what they can teach to you, what is godly from them, taking good things from them that you can learn.
That's a good point, bro.
Yeah, can I share? These two scriptures make me think of two things. Number one is that like you got to do the right kind of training. You know, in everything that you train for, you can do the wrong kind of training. But it makes this distinction that there's a right way to train, and you know that's godly training. And the other thing it kind of makes me think about is the mindset, because even with somebody like Goggins, like what changes is kind of his mindset. And you know, with like training to be godly, it's kind of like partly what Amy was sharing about, was that it's through tough times, but it's just through life. I think godly training is through life. And, you know, like, for example, like, you know, recent time, you know, these recent times have been difficult for everybody, and you can look at it in different ways. You can look at it as, you know, it's like something just is so damaging and terrible and difficult, and you just want to get through it. But then there's also a different perspective of like this can be training. Like you can learn through something like this. You can grow through something like this, whether it be, you know, patience or perseverance or faith or whatever it is. It's like life. I think life here, you get that training through life if you have that mindset.
And even seeing what God is doing as always beneficial, good for us instead of bad. So if anyone has any other questions or comments, that was the last question. Thank you for joining today. Thanks for having a discussion. I feel that it's good to know that we can train in godliness. And it's like Phil was saying, now we have a lot of time. And so, you know, it helped when I know that when I'm training to be godly, when I'm training to do what's right, you're not chasing a feeling, but I also feel that I'm doing what's right. And it changes how I approach every day. So yeah, thank you for joining. If anyone has any questions or discussion comments, you can just feel free to talk.